Time passed in those lands nigh to the west shore. Whispers gathered, skulking their way into the ears of discontents and upstarts. So it was spoken that a shadow had passed over the feast of the Warden of Garad, taking in its wake the lives of many good men. Ijak's spear flashes out toward your chest, lightning quick.
I stand my ground, lifting up my shield and trying to deflect the blow.
Go ahead and roll. You have your bonuses.
That is a... okay. 71, and then we're adding martial soul. That is an 81.
Alright. You bring up your shield in time, deflecting the oncoming tip of the spear. Blunt, but still with enough force to break bone. It's your move.
Immediately after deflecting his shield, I'm going to step forward and strike him with my own.
Very well, go ahead.
95.
I want to point out I rolled 80, you rolled 81. I rolled 96, you rolled 95. Okay. He brings his shield back around, bringing it in front of the tip of your spear and deflecting it off to the side. He then steps in and tries to smash the shield into your neck and upper part of your chest.
I'm going to attempt to step aside, avoiding his blow.
Go ahead and roll. Reroll or keep.
47. I'll keep.
He slams his shield into your chest, attempting to knock you off balance. The blow hits flush, knocking the air from you. Go ahead and roll balance. 20 plus your roll on that.
And then still a D100 on a D20?
That is a D20 for balance.
D20.
Go ahead.
11 nice. Plus. Counting that, that is a 15.
GM roll. Okay. You manage to keep your balance, but just barely. Still, you're knocked off kilter enough that he gets to bring his spear around and stab it at you again. This time, aiming for your chest, center mass.
I'm going to, having regained my balance, rush forward, trying to get around the tip of his spear and throwing my weight, my shield first into him.
Go ahead and roll. Keep or re-roll?
I'll re-roll.
Okay. That'll be your one for now. Very well. You gain the upper hand. Stepping around the tip of the spear, you bring your shield up and smash it into the thick man's weight. He staggers backwards, nearly toppling, and then he regains his balance, planting his foot behind him heavily in the mud. He grits his teeth, bringing up both the shield and spear in a defensive stance and lowering his body weight, waiting for you.
I'm going to relinquish my assault and back off and do the same a little bit, sizing the man up, looking at him for weaknesses, biding my time.
has a limp in the right leg, but this is not evident at the moment. Still, he's slower on that foot than the other. Other than that, he's got about a few inches less on you, but is also much heavier. Has that weight to bring to bear. He grins at you. And then, through the shield, what are you waiting for? The sun to set.
I'm going to attack him then, charging and doing so from the side of his limp leg, forcing him to put more weight on his bad leg.
You're going to try and get around him, so he has to put the weight onto that side. Go ahead and roll. Okay.
97.
Very well. You dash forward, skirting around in a half circle, forcing him to turn as you stab at him. He brings up his shield, but not quite in time, and staggers. It's your move.
I'm going to continue my assault.
Follow-up. Very well. Where are you aiming?
I'm going to
itself.
I'm going to take my spear, and since he's off balance and reeling beneath my attack at the moment, I'm going to try and sweep his leg with my spear, knock him off his feet.
You're going to try and hook the spear around the back of his ankle and pull him off balance. Okay, go ahead and roll.
60.
Okay. He manages to step back deftly. Years of veterancy on the battlefield, keeping him keen. Then, his next move, unexpected, he bull rushes you as quickly as possible, getting within your reach and trying to bear you down into the mud. Go ahead and roll. All right.
72.
You were expecting this, though. He's done it before, though never with this much fury. It's your counter move.
I'm going to step aside, letting him throw his weight past me, and as he does so, I'm going to try to swing my spear at his back before he turns around.
Go ahead and roll. Okay.
42.
He staggers past you as you expertly dodge to the side, and then you enter into that mind space where everything becomes still, slowed. You bring the spear around, and in an arcing blow, slam it across the back of your Majut. He gives out a half yell, half scream in pain, and hits the ground hard, rolling in the mud. He lies there, limply for a second.
Quickly approach him,
Go ahead.
sticking my spear against his neck.
His eye swivels up to look at you. The tip of the spear. He grimaces for a second, and then, in a moment of something close to capitulation, bested me. You have remembered your name in this bout. If you had shown mercy, I would have lashed you.
I'll remove the spear from his neck then, pushing it into the mud and putting my weight on it. I'll step forward then with my other hand and offer it to him, helping him stand.
Bats it
It's
aside.
something... I'll grin down at the man and relinquish my hand, letting him stand up on his own. Besting you is something that I've been doing more lately. Common. As of late.
Not let the impotence of youth distort the reality of your situation. Then, grimacing, he pushes himself up. As soon as you remember your name, you forget it again. He manages barely to crutch himself up on this spear and stand there looking at you. Alan has called for you. He seeks his tweener at his side.
Very well. Let us put away these things so I can be about that.
He nods slowly. Tomorrow, the lance and butt. You all ride. Have the horses prepared before the dawning of the sun.
I'll smile, clearly, and nod my head to him. Of course.
With what semblance of, well, with the most uprightness he can maintain in his fragile state. He straightens himself and then indignantly, the spear as a crutch, moves back towards his quarters, leaving you in the training yard alone. It's not raining, nor quite windy, but the mud still remains. The moisture from the air and the rain from the morning mist still gathered in the dirt beneath you.
Just as we have every day after our training, I'll collect everything that we've used and take it back to his room to put it in its rightful place. And then after I do that, I'll be off.
You find yourself back in its chambers, and then you find yourself moving away and down the hall. If Alon
Where would
requested you, he most likely will either be found in the mess at this hour, or if not, in the hall or the dining hall of the keep, he will be found in his own quarters.
I'll check his quarters first, and then the mess hall.
You make your way along the old hallway, seeking Halan. So you check his quarters first.
Yes.
Make your way past the hall, and regaining yourself in the east wing, you find the entrance to his quarters. Outside, 2 guardsmen stand. These appointments by your father. Security has been tighter of late. You yourself are without personal bodyguard, as none can be spared. The eldest son instead has this leisure at his disposal. The 2 men do not prostrate themselves, but instead bow their heads neatly. Both are of the Roshi caste.
Is my brother in?
The elder between the 2 raises his eyes to look at your knees and then nods. He does not speak, but he does step aside to allow you entrance to the doorway.
I'll walk past him, opening the door in front of me and stepping into the room.
Step in. A bell somewhere in the distance rings. The priests coming to prayer at the foot of the dark tower. No doubt. Halan sit in a high-backed chair with cushions set beneath him and behind him, staring down at an old desk. Frustration etched across his face as he goes about his business. Most likely either signing ledgers at his father's behest or in the throes of study.
I'll approach him, walking clearly into his sight, rubbing my calloused hands from this morning's training as I do.
He turns, looking you up and down, and grins. Duena! And last, you arrive. I wasn't sure when Ejak's training would be over. I was worried it would take over half the day.
The old man likes to push himself to his limit, even if he can't push me to mine. Anymore, at least.
Slowly, your brother nods. Perhaps I should join the spar. Then at last you would be matched in strength. He grins. But
Maybe, brother, maybe.
I will not be so rude as to intrude upon Ejak's lessons. I heard, he says, tapping on the side of his mouth, that you were given the foreigner.
Yes, I was. Something of a debt to be repaid.
Your brother nods. A strange gift, even. He sighs, looking back at the pile of papers on his desk. Bureaucratic nonsense. Father has me poring over shipping records. Should be your task. Your responsibilities lie with the Majut. He shakes his head. And turning
What
back
is he
to you.
looking for you to find in these old papers? I'll step closer to his desk and kind of glare over them myself.
Not quite sure. Inconsistencies in the recording. There are holes. The past year or so, it seems that the dirt folk were lackadaisical in covering up their misdeeds. There's a pretty price here missing, paid off to various merchants, though what they gained in return has been removed from the ledgers.
Hmm.
They've scrubbed it, though, as I said, lazily.
Well, they could be lazy when they had nobody to oversee their ongoings. Now that we are here, we can set things straight.
He nods. Still, interviews will need to be arranged. Certain merchants summoned. I have a feeling that certain charters will be denied and, well, heads may roll. There is almost 3,000 gav missing from the coffers of Kared Khan and the other Kared cities, he says, nodding back to the ledger.
3,000? Over
Yes,
what period?
it
Is this all recent?
seems 5 years.
Hmm.
More recently, though, almost a quarter of that in the last year alone. It moved quicker. I cannot seem to find, though, where the money has gone.
Hmm.
It has been dispersed into too many pockets, spread thin. 100 or more interviews would be required.
What's the connection between it all? Between where it was and where it's been given to?
Mostly. He taps his face again. It seems like most of it in exotic goods. Rare wood. Exotic fruits from the colonies. Here, a ledger, 137 gav. Given in trade for what seems to be bundles of fur and hide. But the prices paid are outrageous for the amounts. Bribes, perhaps? But no one would bribe so openly and so blatantly. Not on a public ledger, either.
Hmm.
Either way,
Perhaps.
you have thoughts on the matter, maybe? I can't make it out.
I'll look over the ledger and see what I make of it.
Begin looking through the discrepancies that have all been noted in red ink. Your brother's thin, fine handwriting. Say what you like for his intelligence. Well, his paperwork is impeccable. You may roll D100. You may add into it. What would this fall under exactly? Let me bring up our notes real quick.
We have anything in our notes to cover this? This is a good time to actually probably roll for proficiency, perhaps.
What would we call this? I would call it
Stewardship.
stewardship or bureaucracy. Either one is fine.
Yeah.
Stewardship, most like. You roll with advantage. You have a plus 10. Okay.
92.
Not re-rollable, but good enough. You begin poring over the ledgers. There seems to be a general pattern. If not in the amounts, then in when they are moved. Every 2 months out of the 11. And only ever on holy days. There seems to be, as your brother said, at least 100 benefactors, not in every transaction, but overall. And all of those benefactors are dirt folk. It seems that most of the merchants in question are of the Alarish persuasion. There are no Tarvish merchants, at least not in name, among the ledger. It also seems that there are a few Andalese names among them. The titleages there match up to those given to both Andalese men and women of high position.
Hmm. Strange how I see only that of Alarish merchants on this ledger and connections to the Andalese. Hmm.
Your brother nods. It would make sense. The trade waters here are mostly forwarded by Andalese merchants from South Andol. None of them are of the highest ranks. There is one Marchesa to be noted, but other than that, no highborn.
Hmm.
He shakes his
Why move
head.
around all this money, though? That's the big question. For what reason?
Yes. Cover
It
it
doesn't look
so
like anybody's
sloppily.
really profiting off of this, right?
He
It's
shakes
just,
his head. No, just exorbitant amount of money being paid to both Larish and Andalese merchants.
hmm.
More than even a bribe would substantiate.
The next time one of these merchants come into port, perhaps you should seize their ship and question them. See what you can beat out of them.
Father has already raised the port tariffs and brought his fist down. The ledgers will be far less sloppy from now on, and what I poured over more recently tells me that the the Kerades seem to have been less or more skittish. Everything up till the last perhaps month or two has been far more proper.
Hmm. I wonder why. I wonder if they caught wind of our arrival.
Most
And
likely.
cracking down on them is only going to make them grow smarter in whatever scheme they have plotted here. There's something behind all of this, but I can't say right now.
Nor could I. Matters of more important discussion. Your summons, Dwener.
Ah, yes. Apologies.
We are to attend a congression. Representatives of both the Dirt and of the Travresh camp are to gather within the main meeting room of the west wing of the keep.
Okay, and what is this all about?
I'm unsure. Father has summoned me, though. And thus, you are to be by my side as my voice.
Of course.
My Rama will not be in attendance, he says, nodding. Father has requested that only Kashani of the First Dawn, and then, as well, the highest Tavish officials and those among the Dern folk we trust are in attendance. A meeting of some importance is all I have been made aware of.
I imagine we'll find out what it's about in due time.
I
Hopefully
imagine.
nothing severe.
He nods slowly. Fortunately, your lessons did not dairy on into the midday. It's to happen before lunch. He grimaces at
I see.
that. Father wants everyone on an empty stomach, it seems. Perhaps there will be staff catering. He grins at that. Hopefully the table is set when we arrive.
I've grown used to fasting in recent months.
He
I will
nods.
need some time to get myself cleaned up, though. I
Of
look
course,
down at my dirtied clothes.
it makes sense. Jacques would be putting you through that. Your time is near. What is it now? 3 months? 4?
Soon, yes. Very soon.
And then
Hmm.
he
Eidolon?
grins. Not just Eidolon. I know there are many secrets, but soon you will know the truth of your name. And then you will be my Dweena in truth. He grins at that.
Hmm. Then maybe we can actually make something of ourselves and live up to our names.
Perhaps.
The two of us, me and you together. We have a bright future. Here, I hope.
He nods at that. As long as you keep it bright. You are supposed to polish it, after all, for me. Speaking on which,
Yes. But I cannot do
Father,
everything for you, brother. And I will try, but you must be the man who you are required to be, as I am who I am.
he nods. Father has scheduled several appointments of state. I am to be publicly visible by both the Dirt and our own Vroshi. Several niceties. Nothing more than cordial meetings between myself and officials within the city, both of Dirt and Tavrish backing. He
Hmm.
shrugs. You will attend me on those as well, though I dare say they will be boring affairs.
Hopefully there will be somebody to speak for us. I don't speak Tavrish.
Nor I. The Dirt language. He spits at that. Why must we contend with the Dirt?
Because we are in their cities. And we're trying to, I guess, make them ours. Or the Tavrans. And by extension, ours. Hmm.
Could we, but why does the Tavish not find itself overflowing with eager and willing citizens? Why not relocate these Dirt? These cities would be much more well stationed by Tavrish.
Hmm. That might well come in time.
Perhaps.
There could be Tavrish colonies established and, well, sent off to the colonies.
I doubt.
It would slowly make them a more proper people.
Father wants
Hmm.
integration. We have already taken on wards. Not mine, and, well, I have no doubt he has plans for you to take on a ward or two of your own. More responsibilities, I dare say. Though I must
It is
say,
a lot.
some of these sheep find themselves not too uncouth. He smiles at that.
Are you
Ah,
letting your eyes wander?
no, not quite. Though I have been given to my serving staff, he looks out the window then. A fine enough young lass.
Hmm.
The magistrate's daughter at that.
What do you make of that?
He
That you would be
shrugs.
given such a young lass in your care?
A woman, too. He shrugs. If a woman we can call such a breed.
Hmm. Father is a smart man, and he knows all that goes on here. He might well even know of your, well,
Don't
exploits.
speak of that.
Hmm?
He cuts then. Not even in this room. Those are
Well,
Father's men stationed outside the door.
say it well in a hushed tone, then, because it's important. That last might well be a test. That is all I'm saying. Be careful what you do, brother.
Would Father
I'll
be
grin.
so keen or so nefarious? Is that his way now?
Hmm.
Tests? If anything, the Dirt folk could use better blood. Doubt even then, though, they would come to even half the stature of a Vraushi. Lesser than Olt. spits.
Hmm.
Rising, he moves over to his bed and begins to don his more ceremonial cloth. His is similar to fashion to yours, say, and around his neck as well, threaded, the coarse thread, which holds the river of, the stone of the river Ausher. Your own feels cold against your bare skin.
I'll go and walk over by his window and kind of glare out of it as he dresses, and I'll talk kind of aimlessly as he does so. Who was it that you were meant to be married to again
He turns
in
back
this
and
whole
looks
scheme
to
of
you.
things?
Have you already so readily forgot?
It's
He
been a busy couple
grins.
of weeks.
I am to marry the sister of the Prince of Blossoms, but she is not yet to be named.
Hmm. Well, hopefully they name her soon.
She is of the year. She is of but 4 years. It's her birthing. The Marshal proclaimed her. It'll be 12 still till I am to wed.
Hmm.
I hope not yet to see the sight of the city when those days roll by. Moved on and past it, no doubt, to greater things. I have tried to persuade our father to allow me to return to the Olmerate, but he said that he will not hear of it again. Our uncle still rules in his stead as Dwemer.
Indeed. And as long as our position is so fragile here, it is perhaps a wise course of action. Not that it would happen, but if our father were to fall, you would be next in line. It would be good to have you here. Take control of things.
Father would
Hmm.
fall, only to rise again. Halaskir has always been named quickly. He nods. In my recollection, there has never been more than a year between his falling and his rising.
Hmm.
He
But
shrugs.
still, whatever child would be named would have to come of age. That would give you time to, well,
He
make something of
nods.
yourself.
Such a child would, upon their naming, the remembrance of that name, be again as your father, but in youth.
Hmm.
You would see to him as such, and obeyed him as such. The customs of the Mashog are clear. Your brother moves over beside your side, now done donning his ceremonial robe, and stares at the tower burgeoning its way like a dark spike out of the ground.
I'll look at it too.
He mutters, "The dirt. They claim it to be the shard of a dead god. They worship it with sacrifice."
Hmm. Lesser beliefs for lesser people.
He nods. Barbaric.
Sister, though, said quite the curious thing
"Oh,
in her, well,
you
visions.
have gained word from Eidlon," he says, perking up, his eyes brightening. "He has not wrote
We
to
have a
me in some time."
we have a something of a discussion going on
"Oh,
with the guard at her door and with the as the interim man. Well, she well said that she had visions of a black hand reaching up from the ground and grasping the sun, pulling it out of the sky.
your brother pales at that for a second. Grim prophecy. And never has
Perhaps
Eidlon been wrong in her visions."
perhaps one that already came true though. Maybe.
He thinks for
Our
a
father
second.
did well with his dark hand reach up and grasp that foul sun from the sky, the man we now hold down in the dungeons.
Uh, the foreigner. What's his name again?
Kotsia.
Can't see. Yeah. He spits the name out. "But why do we suffer such an individual to live? Not some mere punishment of your own. That would be preposterous. You already have problems enough to worry on. Why would Father stack on more? He waits there, waiting for your reply, quietly staring off. Putting in an auditory note, there was a pause. Last sentence said was, "Why would we suffer a man such as that in our presence?" Restarting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hmm. He has stolen the beauty of our land with his own eyes.
Sounds like Father in that sentence.
Yes, I'm quoting him, and for such a crime he must be punished. He has had his eyes taken from him, his hands so he may not craft and work. But there's still use for a man yet,
Can
even as there might be use for an animal.
can he even be called a man anymore? What
Hmm.
is, or even, can he be called? I. He shakes his head. Pointless thoughts. Father would have beaten me for such ponderings when I was young. Now I find myself thinking, speaking far too freely.
Hmm.
My Majut would have told me that I had forgotten my name. Maybe I have. He turns back to you sternly, and then just simply nods. Should we go about our appointment?
Yes, I'll rush to my room quickly and get cleaned up, and then I'll meet you there.
I shall meet you in the conjoining hall. We may walk together
Very
then.
well.
He
Mhm.
nods.
I'll nod and be off quickly to go clean up as fast as I can.
You make your way back through the hallway. Eventually, coming to your room, you find yourself entering.
I'll quickly take off the dirty training garb that I have this morning and don my ceremonial robe and necklace.
You redon yourself in your ceremonial clothing. The Ausha stone gleams brightly under the firelight. At that, you find yourself making your way to the adjoining hall to rejoin Halan. You find him there, waiting, leaning up against the stone in a way that, well, is not befitting of a Koshani of the first Gan, or to stand straight, tall, and proud whenever in public.
Best we stand tall and keep on going, I'll say as I just continue to walk past him, not even stopping, hoping he'll come to join me.
He looks a bit taken aback, then nods. He whispers to you out of the corner of his mouth as the two of you walk, now straightening his back. When did you become the voice of austerity?
Hmm. I've had that and many other things beaten into me over the last few months.
No
It's all
doubt.
part of remembering my name, as you must remember yours.
He nods slowly at that. He grins. But I have been named, he says, turning his head to look at you as you walk.
Yes,
Halan
but
Nazar.
it is easy for one to forget their name on occasion. Now is a time where we cannot, well, suffer such mistakes.
He
We're going
nods.
to be in front of all of these lesser folk. We need to show them that we are better than them in every inconceivable way.
Do you think the fact that guards have been stationed in front of my door, gather round me wherever I walk, he says, looking behind him quickly. You can hear the guard's footsteps, not too far away, but not in earshot or eyeshot, as is traditional in such a place. Do you think Father finds you more capable? Why must I be harried wherever I go? I can't even step out of the keep. He has forbidden it. I have a curfew. Halanazar. Why must a god be held to the curfew of men?
I'll smile as we walk. Do not fret, brother. It is merely a precaution taken. You are his heir, his son. You are the
Thus,
next in line. As I said, if anything should happen to him, you will be the one to stand in his stead until his next name comes of age and reclaims his birthright. You must be protected, more so than I. I'm here to help you and aid you, but I am not you. Only you can be you.
he nods slowly, grinning wryly. The reign of Halanazar has never lasted more than 18 years. He shakes his head then. There was once where myself, I sat in that position twice. First, Halaskir passed through disease, and the second time, assassination. And each Halan took his father's place till he was refound again. He looks to the wall.
Let us pray that there is not a third.
At that, he looks to you. You shall soon become Halim. You are to lead my men. You are to be my general. Are you ready for such responsibility? Has Izak prepared you?
I'll look at him in the eyes as we kind of walk. It is not a matter of being ready or not. It is something I must do. Now more than ever. We are in a time of uncertainty and perhaps crisis. I must live up to my name in what is required of me, regardless of if I'm ready or not.
I'm glad at least you have confidence. I feel mine own waning. Though Father's display, I feel, strengthened some of my conviction. Were you there? No, you were. Did you see it? How did he bring low the foreigner, the assassin?
I do not know, though I ponder the same thought. Perhaps ask him. I'll grin.
I have tried. He would not ordain the question, or give it a second thought. I hear, he says, leaning in and talking even quieter, he has sent Roche amongst both the Tarvish camp and his own, and amongst the city. He is trying to silence the rumors. Many have already been sent to the colonies, but he cannot silence all of them. Isn't this a futile pursuit? Why does he seek so frantically to do so?
The display of such power must be silenced.
But how can it be? He says, hissing the words. I saw it even
something...
from where I was.
Well... Perhaps you're right in that. He will try and silence it the best he can. In my belief, though, once you let something like that out, it cannot be put back in the bottle.
Do you think Father gave you the foreigner because he wants you to? He stops for a second. No, that would be heresy. He shakes his head, disdaining
And we
the
will
thought.
not speak our tongues of heresy, though we may think of them.
He nods.
Pray forgiveness later.
He grins. To whom? Myself?
Yes, yourself and all your past selves, to be better in their name.
Nods at that. You arrive then, before the door. A great thing of sturdy oak, bound with burnished brass. It's already halfway open, inviting welcomers, though not too many. Newcomers, but not many. Inside, there are voices, though hushed, a few. And outside stand guards, a mix. There are Koshani, those of the Third Gan, in regal attire and regal armor. Tavershmen, their strange pointed beards and long mustaches waxed, the swords at their sides long and curved like the wings of a gull, and a few of the Durnt loyalists here at the behest of their lord. Your brother enters into the chamber, head held high, austerity now coming over his face like a mask, the boyish features hardening.
I'll do my best to put on my own mask, raising my head high. I'll stand to his left and slightly behind him.
At the head of the table stands Halaskir Azar. You do not see his fist beside him. None of them are in attendance. Your eyes scan the gathering, picking out familiar faces. Many of them, though, you've never brokered discourse amongst, but you do know them. Directly to your father's left is Ralaz, the Tarvish advisor to the warden of Karad. Beside the man, such a strange sight in such a place filled with men. A very young woman with pale eyes, the color of snow, and short-cut sandy hair. She sits silently, staring at you as you enter, and then her eyes flick to your brother, and then back to the table. Uncanny. She is as pale as papyrus. You see,
I'll eye her strangely for a moment before finding my place.
You see as well the two generals of the stationed Tarvish troops, Vaun Arlan and Vaun Tar. Both of them are dressed in their regal armor. Among them, Arlan is the older and the more senior. You know him as a staunch Tarvish loyalist, stern and commanding, unmoved. Tar, however, younger, is silent. He never speaks in these meetings, just listens. He has a moodiness about him, almost a somberist. His eyes always seem sad and downturned. It is your move if you would like. Also making sure we don't have a break in the net real fast.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
The rest you do not
I
recognize.
will take note of all of these characters that I've seen before, and I'll stand beside my brother, looking for where we're supposed to be seated.
He takes his position to the right of your father, on a chair which is slightly lower in its station.
I will find my chair as well.
You sit beside your brother. 2 chairs down from you sits a Durnt man. He sits across from another one of the Durnt loyalists, the two of them quite different from one another. The first has tattoos running across his face, black lines, creating a sort of mask about his face. A beak there's inscribed. the eyes of a bird. Its talons wrap about his neck in long black strokes. The other man is untattooed, unmarked, and wears regal adornment, the finery you would expect of a magistrate of Kerad.
I'll eye the two men out of the corner of my eye, and then flick my eyes back over to the strange, sandy-haired woman.
Go ahead and roll very quickly for your insight as you look between the two, see if you catch anything you notice or recognize, details and such. All right. Would you like to take a reroll? Would
That
you
would
like to
be
keep?
44 plus 15. Okay.
Yes. We are 9 minutes
I'll
till
keep.
reset. Okay. Roll against real quick. Very well. The only thing you catch is that the man dressed in finery has about his neck a link of sethral sigils, signs of the Calianoric faith. Strange thing to see about the neck of a dirt man. You look back to the girl. She stares across the table at you with her pale eyes. For a second, you almost go numb. There is a certain
You just
intensity about her which is intense. Sorry, there's a certain intensity about her which is intense. I am the greatest DM who has ever roleplayed. I'm telling you, I never
we all
mess up.
have our
I was
moments.
trying
I
to
was
find a
stumbling over my
word.
words
I was
earlier as
trying to
well.
find the word. She has an intensity about her which is uncanny for someone of her age.
Mm. And she's about my age, is she not?
Yes, around such.
Mm. I'll stare back into her eyes, probably rudely so.
She grins, a smile in which her teeth do not touch. You see there her missing tongue.
I'll swallow then and turn away.
Ralaz notices your gaze and then, peering at you, he nods, smiling softly, almost warmly. She is uncanny, is she not? But she assists me in my daily requirements. His drone is long and almost feels forced and painful as he speaks.
I'll nod to the man politely.
Ralaz turns back to your father. Halaskir looks to each of the people sitting at the table, and then to the end of the table as another man joins the procession. Madasio Corlin, the master of healers. He sits down, a bit timidly, at the very end of the table, denoting perhaps the lowness of his rank. Then your father stands, sweeping his gaze across everyone gathered here, and then nods to the soldiers at the door, who quickly shut it. He licks his lips and then, welcome. We're gathered here today to discuss He stops, pausing for a long second, and then requests and articles of importance. Who first, then? He turns to look to Ralaz, who stands, addressing the table. Our control of Kerid Khan so far has been airtight. We have managed to secure and control the districts of the city, but there have been difficulties. He stops for a second, peering to the dirt folk. I must bring forward some grievances to your attention. Warden, he says, turning back to your father. You notice that the Kalianoric dirt man seems calm and relaxed, but the priest is wringing his hands in his lap, something you can only see from your position at the table.
Mm. I'll carefully
Ralaz,
watch the two of
go
them
ahead.
throughout this ongoing and see if I catch any glimpses of stares or grins or
You're
whatever it
learning
may
to
be.
watch the two. All right, that's where your eyes are focused, which means you can also see the Medassia. Before Ralaz continues, Halaskir lifts his hand. There is still one missing. Where is Yorban, Darkhand? At that, the loyalist in the finery flinches at the sound of the name, and then, almost spluttering, speaks. You would invite Yorban to these meetings? Your father's eyes snap to him, cold. I would, as is my right to do so. Or must I remind you of your precarious position on this council, Talib? Talib just shrinks back and nods. But he's... And then he stops himself and goes quiet. The man across from him smiles at him. Or the man across from Talib smiles at him grimly, and then turns respectfully to watch your father and Ralaz. Ralaz is waiting. Halaskir stares at the door and then simply nods. 3 summons were made. 3 summons to your kin, he says, looking between the two Durnt folk. But yet he has denied me. Does he wish to come off rude? Where is he hiding? Where is he gone? My reports say he's still within the city. 3 times he has accepted. Is this the way of your people? To accept such gracious invitation to sit the table? Have I done poorly by both of you? Have I not let you voice your concerns? Put forth your opinions on matters and subjects of your own kind? Both of them swallow. Talib meekly looks up to your father, and then, I can have those within my gathering seek out the Dark Hand and bring him. Your father shakes his hand. There is no time. He turns back to Ralaz then. Continue. Ralaz nods. He looks to you then, holding her gaze for a second, and then past you. There have been several reports, adjunct, that the priesthood has still continued its offerings to the tower. Beasts have been brought as sacrifice. They have been butchered and the meat burnt before the stone. Your father nods, turning to look to the man near to you, the tattooed face. I thought I had been very clear, Yolab, that these offerings were to cease We have need of those stock, and we will have need more to feed the host which so graciously now protects your city. Why do such things still continue? Jolab stands and bows. I do not control the full council of the masked priests. I am but one voice among many. There are those who are were sorry, there are those who were in opposition to this edict. Adjunct. I continue to address that it is imperative that they follow Tavrish's command. But they have shown themselves belligerent. The masked order is stubborn. I shall redouble my efforts. Your father nods. For now, any beast sacrificed to your tower shall have on it a requirement of price. I will request half the beast's worth. At least in that way we shall refill our coffers. Let them know that if they do not follow in this accordance, I shall have them rooted out. He stops then for a second, thinking. And their positions shall be filled by more worthy members of your faith. He turns then to you, your father, that is. Halan has been peering over the ledgers. I set him to this task. How do you report, Duena?
He's asking for my opinion on the ledgers.
Yes.
Going over it again so I remember, there was a number of Alarish merchants.
Ilarish and Andalese merchants.
That were basically selling their goods at exorbitant prices to locals of repute.
To locals of repute. But the money has been spread through multiple individuals. So the payments are made split. Perhaps, one payment to a dozen different people. But the payment for the goods in question comes to hundreds of gav each. But that gav is spread among 10 individuals who made the purchase.
And so is that money... So they're not selling their goods, they're buying goods from here then. Because the money is staying here. And it's being spread around the cities?
Yes.
Okay. I will stand then, looking to my father. It seems that there is a number of Alarish and Andalese merchants who have been buying, well, goods at outrageous prices from locals of repute around the city. All of this gold that is, well, being sent in to the local economy is being spread around in such a way that, well, it's hard to know where it's really going. But it's going to many, many people. Thousands of Gav. 3,000 over the last 5 years.
Your father shirks at that, showing a rare sign of emotion on his otherwise masked face. Rallies as well as jaw drops a bit.
These are for simple things such as furs and hides and other staple goods that are, well, not worth the price that is being paid for.
Your father's eyes quickly flicked to the two Durnt folk in the room. Were either of you aware of this? If either of your names are on these ledgers, Even in the thinnest of margins, I will know. So speak now. Jolab and Talib both stand, bowing to the adjunct. Talib first speaks. No, I have not been accessory to any of this strange going on. And then Jolab as well.
No, adjunct.
I have not participated, nor do I quite understand the purpose of such things. Father strokes his chin, nodding. Halan, he says, speaking to you. If either of these two men find their names anywhere on your ledgers, then stops for a second, pondering. Have my guard notified. I will have them drug. I will have them. Is it drug? Yes. I will have them drug out of their summer houses and sent to the colonies after being paraded through the streets. Make it known.
I'll bow to my father then and take my seat.
Your father turns back and looks to Jolab. I have heard that there now have been 3 among your order who have, with great ceremony, removed themselves from our company in front of the tower in protest. Jolab swallows at that and nods. Yes. They were staunchly adversarial to your position, adjunct, and wish to make their concerns publicly known through these rather gruesome protests. Your father nods slowly. I will have no more of it. Address your order at your earliest convenience, and let them know that there will be no more of these unwarranted deaths within my city. Any man who finds himself prostrating and giving his blood to the tower will find his family sent to the colonies. Is this understood? Jolab nods quickly, but his eyes almost take a seedy appearance as he stares down at the table, narrowing. He looks left and right before readjusting himself.
I'll take note of that, still staring at the man.
Your father then turns to Valn Arlan. Valn, I need to send you and your force northward. We have secured Kerad Andu, but Kerad Kriel, Kerad Anar both require your gentle assistance in reintegrating into the Itavar. At that, Arlan nods. Father then turns to the other Valn. Valndar, I request the 7th. I need to send them to the Dirt Steppe to reassess the loyalty of that outcropping. He turns to Yolab. I will be sending your eldest son with the 7th as ward of Commander Yormir. Yolab swallows stiffly and nods. Very well, adjunct. I shall see him prepared for the journey. The meeting continues on. Your father now talking about more droning affairs Halan leans in. Well, the attention is pulled away from the two of you and now is pulled directly between Ralaz and a discussion between him and the Badasio and the dirt named Talib.
I'll lean on my elbow towards my brother to make it easier for us to converse.
You're not the only ones conversing outside of the main conversation, I should say. Your father is talking with Jolab now, standing over in one side of the room.
This is the same man who was giving seedy looks and such, right?
He was the one who seemed very personally affronted at your father's conditions and also at your father's command to stop the suicides before the tower in protest.
I see.
Lon's eyes dart between the two of them, and then he whispers, "What do you make of it all?"
I think that Jolab has other loyalties.
It was him and his people who opened the gate. He is an Idavarian sycophant. Though Talib, I would say, is far more of a Tavish loyalist than than Jolab. He's converted. He grins. He swears to the 11 now and gives worship to the false gods of the East.
Yet both these men find themselves embroiled in the distasteful acts of the city, these protests, these demonstrations. They may even well have a hand in it.
Perhaps.
You cannot trust them.
Of course we can't. They're dirt, he says, grinning. We can't trust them. As far as we don't have a knife at their heart.
There's a triangle forming in this room, from what I can see. You have the Tavish on one end, the dirt on the other, and us on the third end, all vying for what we wish in this endeavor.
He shakes his head. Talib and Jolab both despise each other and would do anything to sabotage each other's positions.
Yes, brother, but they are both still of this city, whereas we and the Tavish are not.
Your brother thinks about that for a second, then nods. I see your point. Still.
This is both still their homes, and they will side with their homes well over, everything else, I believe, in the end. I know I would for my home, for my people.
But you have the loyalty of a Koshani. These are dirt. They're loyalists. They are not capable of such conviction.
Yes, they opened their gates to us and let us slaughter their people. That is evidence.
I think I trust Talib more than Jolab. What is your call?
I would well put my faith in neither of them. Instead put faith in, their children and their children's children. That one day they might well see sense and abandon their foolish ways, and we may all well be as one.
I heard that father was planning to make Jolab the Blessed. He says, your ward. He's the youngest son, he says, nodding to Jolab the eldest.
Well, I will do my best to make him as undirt-like as possible. I'll grin to my brother.
He nods. Meanwhile, Jolab's daughter has been made my ward.
You should well do the same, then.
He nods. I cannot lead her in the ways of Koshani, but... He shakes his head.
The more dissent that is among their ranks, their people, between each other, whether it be father and son, mother and daughter, whatever it may be. It only benefits us in the end.
Why is father so willing, he says, changing the subject suddenly, to send Val Arlad's forces north? I thought we already had regiments and battalions marching on the other Carrot cities. Why reinforce them? They are only stalked by dirtmen. You need an army to control dirtmen? He shakes his head.
I would trust in father's judgment. There will be things moving at play that we are not privy to.
Perhaps.
Well, the military matters, well, have a tendency to develop and change in play. Plans don't stay plans.
Watch. In the corner of your eye, his father now addresses the Medasio. Not quietly, but not too openly either, overhearing the conversation. He is requesting for more men and for more funds. Catch words here and there. They are incapable of continuing. My healers are giving out from the hours of the stress. We need to reinforce their numbers. Could we not call to the dirt? Your father then, sharply and much louder, interjects over the Medasio's words. I will not have dirt serving in my medical corps. Everyone turns to watch the conversation, then eyes honing in. Medasio seems to shrink a bit at that. I was merely suggesting, Adjunct, that we could pull reinforcements from other areas. There are dirt who are reputed healers. Your father shakes his head, then reinforces his position. I will not suffer dirt. I shall not see them among my healers. I shall not have them among my scribes. Your brother then reassesses his priority, whispering into your ear. That outburst aside.
Such outbursts, only seek to drive a wedge between us and them, and the further that wedge grows, the more dangerous our situation becomes.
Father has shown little desire in anything other than full and complete negotiation, anything besides full and utter reintegration.
He is a fist, but a fist might not be what's needed here. I don't know, though. Nonetheless, what is it you wanted to speak of?
He says, whispering even quieter, need your assistance. A whispered task.
If it's sneaking off to some tent again, then I don't know if I can help you.
You have to, he says, narrowing his eyes. The Duina cannot refuse. It is your station. Nonetheless, nothing so uncouth. I feel cooped up in this place. Regardless of where it is, I need to find a way out of the keep. More than just for some tangential rendezvous outside the walls. After all, what if the dirt decides? He shrugs and then rolls his eyes, looking perhaps to send another man. If not, it had to scare at me. Safe passage out of this keep might be warranted. I want you to look, find it if you can, and then let me know. Can you do that?
I'll take a deep breath, holding my tongue for a moment and just eyeballing my brother. Anything for you, of course.
He grins softly. Only you can see. Good, good. Gives you a small pat on the leg where no one can see it, and then turns back to the table. Straightening himself,
I'll shake my
looking
head
forward
once he turns.
as you see your father approaching. He comes to your side, looking down at you. Dwayne, a word, if you will, outside the room.
Right away. I'll stand and join him.
You stand and then follow your father out and through a side door that leads into a small courtyard. Noticing a few of the serving staff in the courtyard, gardeners most, your father waves a hand and dismisses them verbally, loudly. They scatter like bugs in the wind. Your father turns back to you. A few words. I have found you a ward. Jolab's youngest son.
The
Jolab,
blessed.
yes, you already know.
My brother told me.
He has given in sacrifice 2 of his fingers to the tower. He shakes his head. The dirt are like that. They give parts of themselves in worship. He shrugs.
Hmm.
He is well liked among the younger cohorts and among the priesthood, but he does not necessarily fully share their ways. Still, I'm putting him under your care because I know you'll be vigilant of him.
Of course.
He has made his 11th name day, so he's young, still swayable. Another note. I had a conversation with the Marshal, he says, narrowing his eyes. I received word this morning.
Of what?
He nods. They have come to an agreement. Something not ordained within the Kalishna. A rare opportunity of unique circumstance, not foreseen before. The Prince of Blossoms has been named. Now, their Rama has been freed from their service. They requested Aushata. The Marshal had denied the request. They are sending them to serve at your side.
What does this mean?
I don't know. But it is not in accordance with the Kalishna.
I'll think on my theological teachings and think about who the Prince of Blossoms is and what the significance of this might be.
The Prince of Blossoms, named Aushlin, is one of the great... How should we put this? He's one of the champions of the River Ausher. It is he who goes at the front of any campaign led by the Vroshi. His primary purpose among your faith is to be a keeper. Is to be a keeper of the Aushlet, the blossoms which once grew beside the River Ausher. Prince of Blossoms himself, Aushlin, spends, well, how do I put this? He is one of the few who is permitted to partake in the rite of blossoming, where after battles with your enemies, those seeds are planted within the ash which is left over from their burned bodies. Most often, your people will pile the bodies, burn them, scatter what they can, and will plant those battlefields afterwards to signify places where the will of Ausher has been... I'm looking for words, I'm not finding them, mostly because I'm tired. Those places where the will of Ausher has been dispensed and justice has been given to the enemies of its people. His primary purpose is as both a symbol and as a gardener of war. He participates in the ceremonies of these blossoming rites and of planting the seeds. Only he and the Mashog and several keepers which are appointed by him are permitted to partake in these practices. But it's a very important and ceremonial rite because it's basically how your people signify places where they have held victory over their enemies. There are fields where you have done battle back in your homeland, many, many, many of them, which are sacred places of prayer and rest for the Roshi.
My father has said that they have passed away. The current Aushlon has passed away, and his attendants are being sent here?
They have been named.
They've been named. Oh, okay.
You know from your own theological teachings that when Aushlan is named, they no longer require a Vrama, because once Aushlan has been named, Aushlan no longer speaks. They are silent. So their Vrama takes Aushata, returning to the river. The Mashog have denied Aushlin's Vrama to take, Rama, to take Aushata and return. So instead, they are sending the speaker to you.
Oh, okay. So, they're sending me a new speaker.
Yes.
Basically, okay.
Which is not something which has been ordained within the Kalishna. Unique circumstances do not occur within this culture very often. They do on occasion occur. So this is a rare circumstance of unique situation where the Ramir of Aushlin has now been sent to be the Ramir of Halim.
Or of Halim. Yeah.
Yes. Not something that's ever occurred within the Kalishma. The Kalishma, literally translating to the order, is a deterministic text which lays out all the fundamental flows of naming, reincarnation, and requirement thereof. So, but only the Mashog are allowed to read the sacred text. It's basically a huge ancient book of prophecies, visions, and requirements that have to be met, that the Mashog study.
After thinking about this for a moment and coming to the realizations that I have, I'll nod to my father. Well, this is a good thing, I hope. It would be an honor to have such a Rami at my side. It's better than not having one at all.
A lucky discordance, your father says, smiling wryly. You will have your Ramir, though I must warn you. The Ramir of this Aushlin is a rarity in and of themselves. They are Kadi. A word translating to one who has reincarnated within the wrong form, but meets the requirements of their name. That can be a large swath of different circumstances that can occur for one to be Kadi.
So, when will they arrive?
The journey from the Southlands, the Ulmerate in which the Prince of Blossoms now holds his court, is perhaps 3 weeks.
Okay.
Give it between 30 and 40 days. Not far, not long.
Good. Is that all you wish to speak of?
No. I heard from the Majut that you have surpassed his training.
He bests me less and less by the day.
Soon there will be nothing left for him to teach you. Perhaps even sooner than the day of your crossing. I desire that you remember your name Given circumstances and how quickly things are moving within Kerad, we have moved the ceremony to a month hence.
Month?
He nods slowly.
Well,
Your Ramir must be in attendance, and you must have a Ramir. So it shall coincide with their arrival. You shall have time to become familiar. He
then
swallows.
things will move forward.
He nods slowly.
I'm ready, Father. I will live up to my name.
He nods slowly and then looks back towards the meeting chamber. What do you make of them? Jalam, Talib, the Vals.
I think the two done men are snakes. They
I
opened the
agree.
gates of their city, and now they seek to maintain their positions, that of their families at all costs.
If they
I
would
think,
betray their own kind, they would betray us.
Oh, most certainly, the Tarver and everything, for whatever they value most deep within their hearts.
I have made a request. Halim once gave counsel. You are not him, but once again you shall. I have been given a request. Once every 5 years, there is a pilgrimage. The dirt folk of all the Karad cities find their way before the tower, and there give great sacrifice to appease. He grimaces at that, and then with some consternation, the dark gods within. I am planning to deny them this pilgrimage. We can hardly control each of the cities separately. Conjoined all in one place, they will be like an inexorable tide.
Will we be able to stop them? Won't the pilgrims just come of their own volition, though? Surely blood would be spilled.
It is a difficult decision, but such a gathering could be of time for much civil unrest. Ralaz is staunchly against the idea of blockading the city during the month of pilgrimage, but I remain firm. If we allow them to breach the walls with such number, they may use those opportunities to scheme and plan within themselves. And, as well, revolt. But again, what is your
In
advice?
denying them, you may well push them to the edge of revolt, as is. It is not an easy decision to make either or.
But in allowing it... He shrugs. Neither decision is good.
If a revolt is inevitable, I would pick my best place to deal with it.
He nods. For now, the blockade will stand. I shall ponder on it. He looks about and then back to you.
I had a question, Father.
He nods slowly. I permit it.
I'll stand tall and swallow. Why give my brother Alab's daughter as a ward?
Because whether you or I like it, Halan's tendencies and his proclivities are not a secret to everyone. The Vroshi will not broach the subject nor gossip, nor will the Koshani. But the Dirt and the Tavrash, I have no control over those two groups. I already have enough issues with rumors and propaganda as is. Jolab knows exactly who I am giving his daughter to, and he knows exactly what position that puts her in.
So you seek to humiliate the man?
Absolutely. I wish to ground him to dust. And if there are any bastards weaned off of his daughter, we can easily shift any responsibility onto other members of staff.
An interesting plan, Father. I must warn you, though, that my brother has grown discontent in his idleness here within the castle and being, well, trapped within its walls, its confines. He seeks release outside of them and to find his way out, however that may be, and has requested my help in such a matter.
I expected it. In fact, I might have pushed it. He needs to be able to work on his own accord, or at least work in tandem with you.
So you want me to help him?
If it aids our cause in some way, see it done. But
It
know
will
that
draw me
you
and my
will
brother
suffer.
closer.
But know that you will suffer the consequences of any public displays of denouncement of our position. I would be very bereaved if you were to allow your brother to slip. My position has slightly changed from a few nights ago. We cannot control Halan. In fact, the Kalishna says that controlling Halan has never led to anything besides sorrow. Or so the Marshog have informed me.
I will fulfill my role then, as is my name. I will stand at his side and take the blows that he so creates. I will do my best to make sure. Of course not. But I will do my best to see that he, and we do not suffer.
Your father nods. Very well. You have always had my trust. I have never questioned you, and I never will. It is not within the Kalishna that I have ever mistrusted you. He turns them back towards the chamber. We shall re-enter back into the requirement of politics.
Jolob's a seedy fellow.
Why do you think I have given his youngest son to you? If he ever oversteps his boundaries, as you, the duenna of your brother, are to Halan, your ward shall be in like to Jolob. See it done. I have already made him very aware of the gravity of his situation. If he steps out
Yes,
of
Father.
line, do not spare the rod.
Of course. A faint grin will come onto my lips then, and
In the meantime, you shall train the boy as ward. He shall learn to be your shield bearer, for when your Ramir is not at your side, there will be times in the near future where such a thing may come to pass. And you may not want
balance.
one as close as a Ramir beside you in those moments.
Indeed. I'll do my best to make a proper man of him, and not a don't.
Your father nods, and then makes his way back towards the meeting chamber.
I'll join him and find my seat to
You
my brother.
follow in his stead. Once your father steps back into the chamber, he realigns the workings of the conversations within, bringing the focus and full attention back to himself, and where he then says imperiously, I have made my decision. Jolam, Talib, let both your factions know. The blockade shall stand. I shall deny the pilgrimage in 4 months' time. Those within may travel to the tower during the hours of curfew, and there they shall give what their faith requires of them. But I shall not suffer the denizens of the other cities of Karad to arrive at my doorstep as it is. I hereby bar the gathering within Karad Khan. I will see that you make it known, and in no uncertain terms. Do you understand? Both Talib and Jolab bow deeply, magnanimously, and then both of them raise their hands in the symbol of the Durt, the symbol of allegiance among those people. The forward and ring finger held out, the middle held by the thumb and the pinky pressed against the ring. Your father nods. Good. You are dismissed. Ralaz then turns to your father as the Dirtmen leave. I have questions, Adjunct, on the nature of the assailant in your dungeon. I wished
Perk my ears up then, eyes flicking to the man.
to meet with him, to understand, perhaps, more personally, his convictions and his reasoning. I am sure I could get him to speak far more readily than any torturer you may have in your employ. I mean no insult. I simply have a certain tenaciousness when it comes to these things. Your father looks to you and then to Radas and shakes his head. That will not be necessary, advisor. I have given him as a gift to my soon-to-be son. The man is now in his care, and is his jurisdiction, no longer mine. I have rid myself of all responsibility. Rallies then turns to you, licking his lips,
I'll eye the
pale
man
and
sternly.
thin. Then I must most humbly request of you, Dwener, would you allow me but a brief amount of time with your ward? I am sure I can be most persuasive if given the opportunity to merely speak with him.
I'll eye the man, seeing if I can't pick up any hint of his intention based off his body language and the look in his eyes.
Roll a d100. You have a plus. Let me bring it up real quick, because this is a different roll. You have a plus 15.
I'll reroll.
Go ahead.
Uh,
Exactly. Okay.
yeah, cool. But that's still
That's a good roll still.
really good. Yeah.
You could re-roll again. You do have a saved one. And it's below
No,
75.
I think that's good.
Okay, we're gonna keep that. Okay. You still beat my roll by 8. Okay. You feel something then. A coldness on the air. A prickle down the back of your neck behind your ears. And then something like a scent, though not a scent. The absence of any sense of smell in the room. Whereas before it smelt like men in their finery, their powders and their perfumes, or the polished oil on armor. Now it is all gone.
Take a whiff of the air, somewhat subtly, and sort of let my eyes wander around the room in thought.
You find yourself fixating on the place from which that nothingness permeates. The young woman sitting near to Ralas, her pale eyes fixed on you. As your eyes
I
meet,
gaze.
that strange sense vanishes quickly, recoiling. Go ahead.
I'll stare at her for a bit longer than is appropriate, then turn my eyes slowly back to Ralaz at her side. I'll swallow then
Ralas,
and sit up straight in my seat. Why is it you wish to, well, delve into the mind of my ward and pick his brain such an...
it is a matter that Ralas looks around the room and then swallows. He turns to your father and then whispers in his ear. Your father nods. Halan, he says. Bountar. Banarlan. A moment, please. Your brother stands, a bit abashed, and then looking to you and to your father, and to Ralaz, moves quickly away at the command. The Vallons both stand as well and step out quickly into the main hallway and through the door. The Menasio has long since departed. Ralaz, the young woman, yourself, and your father now remain alone in the room. Your father nods back to Ralaz. You may continue. Ralaz turns back to you. It is a matter close to Karadir's heart. I wish to interrogate the man on his peculiarities, of which we are both very aware, of which we will not speak.
I'll permit you to do so, but I would like to be in attendance.
At that, Ralaz swallows and then slowly nods. I must warn you, however, some of the methods are not invasive, but also not gentle.
It is no matter to me.
He nods. Very well. I do not have a time appointed. Perhaps we can reconvene. He thinks them for a second, his fingers moving, counting dates, shifting, and then he nods. 5 days' time. 5 days. Your father
I'll think about
nods
my own schedule. Yeah.
and then looks to you, waiting for your reply. You think about your own schedule. You do have certain requirements given by Ijak in 5 days' time, but the evening is open.
Would the evening suffice?
Yes, he says, bowing to you. Yes, it would, Divine One.
When the
Also,
time is set,
he gives a small hand pat on the shoulder of the young woman. I will have my assistant in attendance. She is integral to the process.
I'll allow the woman uneasily for a moment, sizing her up yet again.
She still has not moved her eyes off of you. Your father clears his throat and then, I allow it, he says to you. You can be in her presence. We have already broken tradition far too many times. This break perhaps will be more advantageous to us than some of the other necessary inconveniences of this assignment, he says, gently waving his hand to the keep around him. We cannot pretend as though we cannot, at some level, mingle.
Thank you, Father.
He nods and then leans in. But the Koshani and the Roshi hear nothing of it.
Of course. My lips are sealed.
He nods. Ralaz, you will bring her in as quietly and carefully as possible. You shall use the Dwener's own quarters. I shall make sure guards are stationed at points where they are not within earshot or eyeshot, but still cover the perimeter. Ralaz nods thankfully. You are most gracious, Warden of Karad. And then he straightens. Your father turns to you. Let those outside know that the meeting is dismissed. And if they have any other designs or requirements of me, they may seek me in my chamber as I attend to other matters. Besides that, you are dismissed as well to your brother's side.
I'll stand and then bow deeply to my father. I will go and find my brother.
You step out and into the hallway. Halan looks at you, eyebrow raised. That was uncanny. A secret audience.
Yes. It is a strange matter indeed.
Valntar and Van Alan make their way back towards the door.
I'll nod to both the men as they pass.
If that is your action, you may. Your father just asked you to let the men outside know that the meeting is dismissed and they're going back into the meeting room.
Oh,
If you want to let him in, you can let him in. I'm not gonna.
No, I'll kind of step out in their. It didn't click.
No, you're
I'll
okay,
step
you're
out
okay.
into their path as they're coming in my direction and speak to both of them. My father has dismissed the meeting for this evening.
The first Van Alan gently nods his head, bowing reverentially.
Of course. Young Koshani.
He says politely. The other one nods in your direction in deference but does not speak. The two men turn, their armor clinking, and make their way towards the west wing, leaving you and your brother now alone in the hall.
A dull affair, but a necessary one. I'll turn, looking at my brother.
He looks at you. A secret meeting between you and father. That's the second time. Care to share what was discussed?
Erlas just thinks he can, well, learn something of Kotsier as well. Ordeal.
Brother is already
I did not
walking
permit it.
back down and towards the mess hall. A welcome path to take, it should be said. He nods, and father is going to allow this.
Yes. Kotsi is my ward. It is my decision to make, ultimately. Father said so. He has ordained it such.
He sighs. It should be the Koshani that deal with him. Why do we allow the Tavresh to intervene in our own in those who have transgressed against us?
Well, he won't be, intervening at all. I did not permit him to enter.
So you denied him his request?
Yes.
Your brother nods appreciably then.
He will learn nothing that we have not already, sought to gain.
I see. A wise decision by all accounts. You
Neither
are
him
looking
or his
out for us,
strange
aren't you?
tongueless hole. I am, yes. I always am. And
I know
speaking of
it.
looking out for you, we will find you a way out of this castle. Don't you worry. I'll pat him on the shoulder as we walk.
Good, good, you're on board. Excellent.
Hmm.
And I do mean what I say. I do not feel safe in this keep. We need to have a way out, lest the enemy come to our gates and trap us inside. Think of how we invaded this city. Would it not be the same? They outnumber us 1 to 10, but their meekness keeps them at bay.
Yes. But for how long will they remain meek?
He
There's the
nods.
question. Father has denied their right to pilgrimage. Some of them will take up arms eventually if we keep pushing them in such a direction, but I think it's only inevitable. They will be brought to revolt. We just need to find the best time to crush them.
Why does Father stonewall them on that regard? It seems foolish to deny them pilgrimage. Could we not?
Well, maybe conflict is what we want.
Perhaps.
Or what he wants. We are warriors. We fight with spear and the courage in our hearts. They are just peasants.
Sheep. He leans in then and quietly whispers in a conspiratorial voice. What if it was my choice, dear brother? I would allow them to find their way to Karat Khan. Gather all of them. Most of them at least. And then we could purge them as we must. As we did many years ago. But this time, we would be more thorough. He nods.
Perhaps that would, just put us a step in the right direction. But we must be careful. We cannot be as tyrants, or else they will remain in arms against us for time immemorial. They will remember a great slaughter of that.
Not
if they started, though.
Go ahead.
If they started, though, and bring to arms against us, that makes for a better story in the long run.
He shivers. Something feels wrong.
Everything's wrong about this place and that damned tower. If I could have my way, I'll lean in conspiratorially as well. I would find the best architects in the realm and have them devise a way to pull it from the fucking sky.
He grins. They've tried. When the Koshane first came, when we landed on these shores, we tried to destroy it, to remove its blot from the city. Back when the stones were first erected, but to no avail. It does not chip, it does not break. It is unmovable. But what if we could build around it? Close it off completely, so that no soul could see it or touch it.
The idea of it still remains. They'll still look up at it, and children will ask their fathers and their mothers, "Hey, what is that?" And they'll tell them the story of it. The only way to rid something of that from all of our, presence is to remove it completely, brick by brick, if we have to. Even if it can't be pierced, there must be a way, surely.
It is an eyesore in this city, to say the least. But it's not just the tower I speak of. The dirt themselves. They give off an uncanniness. You saw the priest of flies. They gutted men alive. tied them in their own entrails and let the flies feast upon them. And then, of course, there is those pock-marked priests of the tower. The masked lepers.
They are, well, a queer people. It would not be a negative option to remove them from the plane of existence. It may well be a task too great for us right now, in the position we are in.
He nods. And then you find yourself thankfully entering into the dining hall, to a small bustling of noise and bodies. Broshi captains sit about. Here and there, tangentially mixed, you see Tovershmen, commanders mostly, captains of men, tall, proud. No weapons within the hall, though. None are permitted within this conjoined area. There are slaves, too, most of them Durnt folk, taken during the sack of Kared Khan. Men, women. Women stay to the Tover side of the hall, but Durnt men serve at their master's leisure. They're given tasks, responsibilities, but none of them highly. The Koshani, those who prepare food, are of a higher caste. Only those of Roshi most trustworthy are allowed to do so. And among them, especially among the head chefs, you will find those of the third Gon of the Koshani blood. These positions only given to those of high authority and high standing and favor.
I'll look around the hall and find a place to sit.
There is an empty
appropriately
table
in my position.
set far apart from the rest. On a higher dais, you send a small set of stairs up and onto it. This is a natural thing that's been erected within this room, not a natural part of its architecture.
Mm-hmm.
It is a place on which only the first Gon may sit. Currently, there are only two others sitting here. You do not know them by name, but by title. Both are of less titleage than yourself or your brother. Both of them unnamed.
I'll go and sit at their side. I'll beckon my brother to join me, if appropriate.
Your brother sits near to you, the four of you sharing the table. One of the first Gon stands and then bows to both of you. Dweiner, Halanazar. He steps away, leaving only the third left. He peers over his plate at the two of you, and then nods, speaks in the high Koshani. Welcome to my table. Our table.
I'll nod to him, graciously. Your friends seem to depart quickly. I'll eye the man as he walks away.
He feels uncomfortable. In groups of more than 3. He grins. The Kalishna proclaims him to be meticulous about such numbers and circumstances.
I understand. Though he should be better not to make it seem a slight in the future. I'll grin to the man.
I shall speak with him on this matter. Though, lightly, or you might find him prostrated before your chamber before the night is done.
I would not wish so. I'll turn to my brother then. Oh, Yes, there was some good news from today, actually. Hmm.
Your brother is not paying attention to you, but instead looking around the hall, trying to find one to serve him. He then raises his hand and snaps his fingers, and in the Koshani way, he beckons and directs one of the servers up and too near to the table. A Koshani of the third Gun, one of the few here who is allowed to serve you, who has the honor to do so. He lays prostrate on the floor before both of you as your brother turns back. What was that? I couldn't hear you.
Good news from today.
Ah,
Yes.
and what might that news be?
The time of my naming has been moved forward, and I have been provided with a Ramia who will arrive in some 30 to 40 days.
Ah, that is good news. Very good news. He says,
It's
nodding
quite a
slowly.
strange occurrence, though. It is the former Ramia of Auschland.
The Prince
Is,
of
well,
Blossoms. Your
yes.
brother narrows his eyes. But that Ramir has always... I cut you off. I apologize.
No, the Ra, the Mashag has denied him that right. Even stranger, too, he is a, what's the word again? Kadu?
Gadi.
He is a Kadi. Hmm.
Your brother's
Something I
eyes
find
lift
odd.
then. Oh. Do we know the nature of his Codism?
Hmm. I did not think to ask. I'll find it out in due time.
Your brother nods.
I'm rather curious about this new Ramia coming. Far more interesting than the last one I had. Hmm.
The Ramir of the Prince of Blossoms is known, he says slowly. He sits there thinking for a second, tapping the side of his head, and then he nods slowly. Would you like to know? He grins, or shall I leave it a secret?
Hmm. Allow me that one surprise,
He nods.
Oberyn.
I will have you roll, however, just your theology, because you may know of the Ramir of the Prince of Blossoms, considering that it's one of the few Ramir that takes Aushata whenever they revoke their post. Reroll or keep the super low roll.
I will keep the super low
That's
roll.
exactly what I thought you were going to do.
Yeah, which is that's a
You
29.
cannot recall the Ramir, his name, or his history, or the signs which declare him to the Mashog are not known to you. Your brother flicks his eyes to the third Gon laying prostrate on the floor and then back to you. Ah, but what is this about the day of your naming?
I am to be named shortly after my Ramia arrives. Father has ordained it such.
He nods slowly. I see. Well then, in that regard, you shall soon find yourself performing your Zahaba, he says,
Hmm.
grinning.
A day I have long awaited.
You still have not been informed of it by Ijak, have you? The nature of what it is you must do.
No, I have not.
He grins. It would be heresy for me to speak of it, so instead I shall simply say that performing your Zahaba shall be the most uplifting thing that you have performed since the day of your birth. It stays with you, always. The memory of it, the importance of it, the significance. It is breathtaking.
I'll nod to my brother, and I'll look to the third man at the table.
He is just watching between the two of you.
Do you look forward to your Zahaba and your naming?
He nods slowly. I am unafraid before my Majud. Though it is 2 years from now. Still, I am diligent in its pursuit. He bows to you, prostrating his head on the stone table in front of you for a second. I wish you blessings, Prince of Suffering. And then he stops
Thank you,
himself.
kindly.
I am remiss in using your title, yet unremembered. Forgive me that.
There's a common slip of the tongue.
He nods,
Pay it no mind.
but one we must be more careful of. He looks around, surrounded by such detritus.
That we are. I'll follow his eyes.
He stands slowly and bows above you and your brother, deferring his slightly lower station. I must return to my Madut.
I wish you well in your training, and hope you see the day of your naming.
To that he gives a soft smile, the first break of emotion. This Koshani comes off more like to what you are accustomed to. The Azar have always been more free and open with their emotion than the rest of the Koshani caste. It was written in the Kalishna to be so. He wears his mask more deferently, or sorry, with more deference. He nods and then makes his way out of the hall. Your brother turns back to you, eyeballing the man on the floor, a slight grin on his face still there. The man lays
Step out.
prostrate and silent.
Why has he done so? What is... I'll look to the man on the floor and then look to my brother. Why is he prostrating himself in such a way?
It is normal for the third god to prostrate themselves before the first. Your brother
But why does he
shrugs.
remain so?
Your brother shrugs, letting the smile die a bit off his face. Rise, he says then. The man rises and again bobs his head deferently. I am pleased that you would allow me to do so. Halanazar, you are most gracious. Then please show your gratitude by fetching for me some of the steamed vegetables and fresh bread from the kitchen. And fresh water from the well, if you will, and fresh water from the well. The man nods and then quickly turns to head out. The Koshani of the first Gan are not permitted to eat meat. I'm unsure if this has been mentioned.
It has.
Okay, good. Well, you can eat fish. I think we have discussed.
We said a red meat, yeah.
Yes, red meat
Darker
is not
meats.
permitted. Your father turns back to you, watching as the man goes.
Hmm.
He is slow about it. His pace should be. Your brother thinks for a second, looking for the words.
How old is the man that he sent off?
In his 40s, maybe 50s from the look of him.
Does he look to be aging?
Aging for sure, but not in any way disabled in form. He has the full autonomy of his body.
Look to my brother. Men grow discontent, well, when they do the same thing day in and day out, and they grow lazy in doing such.
They need to be reminded. One of the third Gon should act as such.
Yes, indeed.
He shakes his head. 'Tis sad times when we must leave that place which we call home, to journey into a stranger's den. It has made us all grown weary. Even father has had his moments of Then he stops himself, shakes his head. It is remiss for me to speak so.
Especially not in a room so busy.
He nods.
But I understand what you mean,
I
brother.
shall pray to myself this night, and seek my name.
We have well been put to a test, a great test this is, of our willpower, of our faith. We have to endure this trial and come out on the other side of it stronger.
He nods,
We will be victorious
nodding off as
if
you
we commit
speak,
ourselves to this task.
his eyes glazing over. I didn't mean to speak exactly when you were speaking, by the way. Just clear.
I understand.
I actively wanted to have you still speak and me speak. Anyways, moving forward. He then sharpens his expression, looks back to you. I had an idea. Aleph is the spitting image of a Koshani. I think I want them for my serving staff. They obviously have the blood. He thinks for a second.
Hmm. I will say it is not a secret.
What is not a secret? He says, looking back to you, concerned.
I'll stare at him, knowingly.
He looks blankly.
Hmm.
Do not jest. Of what do you speak? He says more
I do not
quietly and
jest.
quickly.
Hmm.
What
You have,
secrets are
well,
known?
developed a reputation for yourself due to your actions.
What?
There is a reason that father has, well, given Alam's daughter to you. It is not just a test, well, like I thought it was a threat and a humiliation of the men.
He grimaces at that for a second, then reaffirms his mask. Well, what of it? Especially now that you have affirmed father's stance in the matter. He shrugs.
I was just saying, it is known, so take her into your serving staff.
But
Just
how?
do it subtly. How is definitely a matter of importance. Who do you have among your current serving staff at the moment?
He thinks for a second.
Do you have a serving staff?
Yes, as do you, he says, lifting an eyebrow. Though they are most effective, nearly invisible. As a good serving staff should be. Say, you have time after Ijak's training in the morning? You have not been given any additional tasks, have you? Not by father? Not by Ijak?
No. In a matter of 5 days, I have some business, but otherwise, just the normal formalities.
Then I ask you this. He leans in closer. Add on to your task of finding an entrance and exit the location of Aleth herself. I have not been able to locate her. Not since that night. I am somewhat worried on the matter, he says,
Hmm.
looking nervous indeed. He stops. And then even closer. I did not spill my seed across her chest or belly. Better to know where she is and keep her close. You understand?
You know how such a bastard would be dealt with.
Yes. They would be given to the Marshak.
No, they would likely be passed off as some servants, especially if we could get her into the castle. Hmm. And I'll nod to him, giving him a knowing look.
The Bracken tradition, then. But it seems like the Kalishna is more and more uncertain of late. Nowhere
Well,
within the sacred book does it say Halim had a skier, and Halan found themselves within Gerrit Khan.
we must make compromises in such a situation. Though we must not lose ourselves in such compromises.
He nods slowly, and then, if the Kalishna will it, let us return someday. I miss the hall of our father. Do you remember Uncle?
Uncle, yes.
You
I
could go on him for a
was
matter.
young at the time.
Old Rabas. He would tell us stories of how he and father slew Katuk Kunar. He grins, legendary Olmir of the north, and took his Olmerate for their own.
Ah. Hmm.
Why can we not conquer as father did? Why does the
Be
Kalishna
patient.
not will it?
Perhaps it will yet be willed. We must wait for our opportunity.
I am tired of waiting, Halim. He stops himself then and bites his tongue, closes his eyes. I lose my
All in
tongue.
due time, brother. We will live long lives, and in those long lives we will have many victories and successes. Put a hand on his shoulder.
Put his hand on his shoulder. He searches your face, looking for some sign of emotion to his moment of heresy.
Give him a genuine smile
The speaking of your
and a nod.
name would be something to which the Mashog may even request Aushata for. It has not been given to you. It is not spoken to you. He nods, not finding anything, I guess perhaps he's scared of. He looks so frantically for, and then his face softens and he sits back. And the Kleshma permits it. He grins. We shall
Hmm.
conquer more than one Olmeret. We shall conquer them all. And then he shakes his head. The serving staff returns, the third gone, bowing, and placing a platter of steaming food before the both of you. A dark and fragrant rice, root vegetables, steamed soft vegetables and fruit, and hearty bread. Not fresh baked, but double baked. This needs being cracked open. The third gun does so, with a long knife severing the bread, opening the crust to reveal the soft interior. And then, bowing again, prostrates himself. Your brother flicks his hand at the man. You are dismissed. The man stands and steps away from the table.
Let us find peace in this moment and the joys of our food.
He nods. The two of you spend a while at sup, eating, contemplating the meeting's events. The conversations turn to the bureaucracy being discussed. Tariffs, taxes, the raise in security around the ports. Eventually, once meal's finished and the midday is past, your brother stands. I must return to my ledgers. I give you leave, Dweena. You are permitted to pass by my side, but I will request you again after the noonday tomorrow to return and assist me, he says, with the long and arduous task of peering over shipping records.
With the both of us at work at it, it will pass quicker. Have no worries.
He nods, and then austerely makes his way out to the hall, leaving you alone in that moment.
I'll remain seated, finishing up the last scraps of my food, and just kind of glare around the hall and people watch.
You watch the proceedings. You may roll D100 to have your outer sight on this. 15. Very well.
101.
As you look about the hall, you notice a man at the edge corner of the room, sitting with his compatriots. From where you sit, keen-eyed, you watch as the man slumps forward at the table, his head gently resting almost into his bowl of soup before him. His compatriots are too busy speaking to notice, but you have.
Do I recognize the man, or is it somebody unfamiliar?
He is just one of the guardsmen. Just a strange moment of the man slumping into his bowl of soup that caught your eye.
Watch the man as he remains there for a moment. And then I'll shake my head and stand, getting one last glimpse of the room before leaving.
You make your way out and into the main hall. The sound of bells ring again in the distance, bringing the Durnt priest to prayer at the foot of the tower. Soon the curfew will be erected after the time of prayer, and the tower closed off once again by Koshani and Tavar's troops.
I yearn for the day when we can tear those bells out of that damn tower. I'll look up towards it.
As you walk down the hallway, you look for the high, open windows all about you. Those tall stone ledges that overlook the city below. The tower... The tower almost seems to erupt from the ground, lashing its way up and towards the sky, frozen in a moment of time, like an icicle, as black as night, seeking to pierce the clouds. Never seen a structure built so tall, so crudely. When I call it a tower, I must reiterate, it does not look man-made. It does not seem to have structure or form to it, but instead is a series of sharp blackened protrusions, as wide and as lengthy as a tower, as tall as it is. There are places where the dark stone wears away, seemingly creating crude and unchiseled bridges between its surface, like the flint napping of obsidian. Its surface is wavy, conchoidal, fractured in many places. On its surface, facing towards your vision, you can see one singular great entrance, a huge black door, shut just at the base of the tower in a recess there. You watch as the Durnt priests make their way towards it. You can hear them wailing, crying their prayers loudly into the evening air, prostrating themselves. Flagellation begins.
No man might have been able to tear you down, but what about a god? I wonder. I'll mutter to myself as I stare out. I'll flick my eyes into my head as I hear the wailing of the Durnt priests, then I'll turn and make my way, continuing down the hall.
Where are you headed? Where are you going?
I'm going to go to Eidolon's room.
You find yourself coming before the guardsman again, the veiled man who sits watch night and day. He looks down at you and then deferentially bows in the way of a warrior, not truly letting you leave his sight beneath the veil. Come, have you, Duena? He says stiffly.
To continue my conversation, if my sister is, well, open to such.
He nods. He steps inside and then returns shortly after. She is beside herself with joy at the coming of the Duena who shall be her wed. He nods. What message shall I relay from you to her?
That coming is coming sooner than expected.
He nods.
It is but a month or so out. My Ramir is due to arrive within 30 to 40 days, likely. And I will be set to the task soon afterwards.
He nods. He steps inside and then returns a short while later as you wait. You hear the sound of the wailing cease as the time of prayer ends and the curfew is ushered in. Through the windows you can see Tavish troops marching on the tower to reform the perimeter there, re-establish the blockade that has now been erected, a sort of wooden fort which spans the perimeter of the tower. The guardsman steps back out. Eidolon wishes to share her immense satisfaction knowing that soon you shall remember your name. She offers you her blessing in your Zohaba.
I thank her for her unwavering faith in me, and I will not let her down in this regard. I look forward to the day where I might be able to set eyes upon her appropriately.
He nods, and then leans in. She also wishes me to impart a vision. He clears his throat.
Continue,
Nice.
good man.
She saw a woman shrouded in a veil of stars, her eyes ever shifting. From her mouth poured smoke, from her hands fire. She speaks that the woman said to her, "But a small passage. The king cometh, his time ordained. The king of all shall be known."
I'll swallow, nod to the man. Thank you for relaying this.
He nods.
Hmm.
Other visions as well. Those she has spoken on. The same. The hand. The flame which burns as brightly as to scour the earth.
I search yet for what it all might mean.
As does she. Kalishna wills it, we may understand in time. He bows his
If the
head in
Kalishna wills it.
reverence. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If the Kalishna wills it. And I'll bow my head as well.
That is the proper term. Okay. Any other message you would wish relayed to the lady in waiting?
None at the moment.
Do you not?
Just give her my well wishes as usual.
I shall do so, young master, divine one.
Thank you. And, I will leave him then, and let him go about doing that. I'll make my way down to the prison with what time I have left in the day.
You find your way back down to the stairwell. The guards let you pass without a word. Father's commands, perhaps, who knows? Where do you go?
Takatsu.
You find yourself along the passageway, taking a torch out of a brazier on the wall, and then carrying it. You head through a chamber, the leftmost, if you remember, down its long hallway, till you come before the door. You find no guard there.
I will see if the door is unlocked. If it is, I'll step through.
Strangely, you do find it unlocked. Though it seems silly to lock a door when a man has no hands. You step in, holding the torch high over your head. You look down into the bowl, and there find Katsi shrouded in darkness. Both of his stump hands have been fully, cleanly wrapped. His face bandaged. These look to be new bandages he has been cared for, and the scent of filth about him has dissipated, replaced with the scent of a strong soap. There's a wooden bowl before him on the ground, littered with crumbs and bits of meat, half chewed. His
I'll stand there, taking it
eyes
all in.
slowly turn to stare at you from beneath the blindfold. And he smiles.
I knew you would come.
I also knew I would come, rather. And I'll step closer to him, kneeling in front of him.
He watches you as you walk. You step before him, and he stares up at you.
How is it to persist with no eyes and no hands?
I was hoping
You would relieve me of that burden, Prince of Suffering. You know better than I.
Do I?
He nods slowly.
Is it not proclaimed in your holy book? He says with a smile, all things which will happen and must be. A bit deterministic, don't you think?
I don't know what to think, in all honesty. But I know I am who I am, and I must stick by the ways that I am given. I will not stray from them.
If you do, he says with a smile,
I will relish the day.
because it will mean you are one step closer to true wisdom.
And what do you know of true wisdom? To find yourself in such a place now here. If you were truly wise, perhaps you would have taken a different path in life. Or fate would have determined something else for you.
He just stares at you with that. Why?
We're going to be having... Why? Why what?
He's a crooked letter. Then he cackles.
I see you've gone right mad, haven't you?
He shakes his head. Oh.
I have found sanity.
Well, your sanity may yet be tested. And there are people who have want of you still, even in your current state.
Oh.
They want to know what wriggles around inside of that head of yours.
And I have no doubt you will let them have me. A part of my punishment, isn't it, Kushan?
Punishment, yes. I seek more than punishment out of you, though. I seek utility.
He nods and holds up his stumps before his eyes. What use is a blind man? His words rasping and less clear at that.
What lies in between your ears? In that mind of yours? The things you know? Why you've done this all?
Is that all you seek? Understanding of my reason? You would not be able to comprehend it.
Perhaps seek different knowledge then. Something more palatable.
Like what? What do you think I can bear?
Power, he says. But even that is beyond you. You are dreamless. You cannot touch it. I have a question. When the world descends around you in all its veiled darkness, when the insanity screams into your mind, burrowing like worms, what do your people see? What do you hear?
Stare at the man. An uneasy look in my eyes. Such a fate would never befall us. We would never stoop so low.
He raises an eyebrow.
I think you misunderstand me.
The unfailings, Kushani, which so gracefully passed you by. What do you hear? What do you see? Answer me and I'll answer any question you ask.
He's asking exactly, what is it?
What do you hear? What do you see during unveilings?
Unveilings. Oh, okay. I didn't pick that up. What do I see and hear during unveilings?
Nothing
What
more or
is an
less
unveiling,
than
do I
what
know?
has been described before. Just that there are no effects, nor do you require a Sethril.
So the world tears and turns purple and all of that still, but, you know, it just
Nothing
has no
more to
mental effect
you
on me.
than nothing more to you than the shadowy mist on the shore in the early morning of a port. You may walk through it, though you may not see through it, and it is thick, dark, full of small shining lights and inconceivable nothings. But it poses no more threat to you than the petal of a flower.
Nothing more than dark nothings.
Nothing more than like a blindfold being pulled down over your eyes. He nods. You don't hear it. You don't see it.
Hear what? See what?
He peers up at you, grinning. Fate. And then he looks back down into his stumps, resting them on his lap. The Idavar seeks to destroy you, you know. He says, almost casually throwing it out.
I think that much is fairly obvious.
Karadir has no place for the Goshan or for the Roshi hosts.
Why else would he send you to a place where you will die? He grins. All of you. You will all die here. But not me, no, not Katsi.
Such little faith.
He grins, but does not speak.
I think if the Tarvish could, well, they'd wipe away all given time. And then everything would be as they willed it. But I do not think our time is yet. They still have use of us. Though we will be ready when the time comes. That they seek to wipe us as they send us to wipe the dirt off the face of this earth.
He nods. What use would you have of me then? It seems we have a common enemy.
That's as I say. I think there could be use made of you in good time. Not now, though. Not anytime soon. But perhaps we can get you out of this prison cell someday and up to doing proper work. Against our joint enemy.
And Mendacio told me that I was to attend your quarters. He grins evilly. By the morrow, your father willed it.
I thought something might be as much. They would not just let you rot down here. He has put you into my care. If you die, well, that oath is upon me, and my soul and my name. That is something I will not allow. I plan to pull you out of here anyways. Not just let you wither away.
Oh, kind master. Oh, most gracious host, he says
I do
sardonically.
not see kindness to give to you. I know you are beyond that. I do such just for myself. But you know that already.
You are an imperious, yet unready. He stops himself then, not continuing his thought.
Speak your mind. Unready what? I am ready.
No. You have yet to suffer. And that will be all for now.